it's gone. 'Cause if you're not
It's somebody's birthday, so if I could just remember whose, for the life of me, huh? It's a biggie, yeah. I feel like I'm forgetting something. It is Christmas, and it is about our King. I know as Celia was going through the songs, she really wanted it to be Christmas to be about Jesus, which is odd. So as she started picking through the songs, those are the songs, man. Our King came. He lived here. You know, you get that? I think so many times we get caught up in all of the stuff that goes along with Christmas, and we forget that our Savior, our Lord, our Messiah, our God came, and he was actually born. Like, he was one of us. It was, I was thinking this morning, and this really doesn't have anything to do with what I was going to talk about today, but have you considered what it would be like to live when Jesus lived? I mean, you got this guy that was born, and I mean, the story is just beyond scope, right? I mean, I'm not saying I'm skeptical, but my girlfriend comes and says she's pregnant, and and I know how that works. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, wow, oh yeah, you were made pregnant by the Holy Spirit. I've heard that one before. I mean, think of the and at the time in history, just an amazing time for an unwed, untouched woman to conceive a child. And as he goes and as everybody knows, and they go and the 8th day comes to name him, circumcised, and they go through the rituals. And can you imagine the talk around town? I mean, it's got to be some gossip going on, right? I mean, you would think that this is a stressful time, and we think Christmas has a lot of stress now, you know. But I mean, think about from Joseph's perspective, from Mary's perspective. Jesus is going to grow up in a small town, a small community, and everybody knows the story, you know. Everybody knows that the guy who he says that's his dad is not his dad, and everybody's wondering, kind of, you know, is everybody going to continue to go along with this? And so it's kind of a stressful thing, and I was just thinking about how that would look today. I mean, how judgmental we are, you know, that we would be the biggest skeptics in the world. They would have never pulled that on us, not today, because that's miraculous, and we know that can't be real, right? Weird. All right, that's a Christmas part, though. I wanted to talk to you today about peace on earth. Is that all right? I still think that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. I still think that he actually came so that we could have peace on earth. And I believe, and I know it may sound weird in the times and culture we live in, but I do believe it's possible. I believe that we can live in peace on earth. And today I want to talk to you about how to have peace with yourself. Is that all right? I mean, because I think most of the time we want to point fingers and we say, man, there should be peace in the Middle East, or there should be peace in politics. Well, I mean, that's not going to happen. You know, you've got Arabs and Jews and Democrats and Republicans. It's not going to happen, okay? Peace on earth. But what about my peace? What about your peace? Especially this time of year. Has anybody been Christmas shopping in the last 4 days? I do all of my Christmas shopping in the last 4 days. what I experienced on Friday was far from peace on earth. I was cussed by a little old woman. I didn't know old women talk like that. Justice looked at me and she goes, "Did you see what she said?" I said, "Yeah, I sure did." Man, it was, wow. It was far from peaceful. I don't handle stress like most people. Like, I'm the quitter. I'm the guy who says, "You guys can have it. I'm done. I'm out of here." So we made a rapid exit from the chaos, and I was done Christmas shopping. So stopped by a store, pulled the Emmett Smith, got everybody gift cards, and came home. Like, so, gift cards are good. So I just, man, the stress and you guys know what makes Christmas shopping so stressful, right? Like, people. If it wasn't for people, it would be awesome. Now, you know what I think for me, and I don't know, maybe I'm not like you, maybe I am, I don't know, but I think for me, I want to get the right gift, right? But I rarely have a plan when I go shopping, and it drives Celia crazy because she wants a list of what we're getting everybody, and I'm like, when I see it, I'll know. You got to be spontaneous, which stores love that, by the way. They love the spontaneous shopper. But I go and I'm like, I'll just know, when I see it, and when I see the right gift card, you'll know. But it's stressful, and I thought about this. It's stressful because we care. I love the people. I'm not going to get gifts for people I don't like. I'm not into obligation Christmas. All right. So this is, sorry. Drives my wife crazy. No, some people are just wired up different, right? But I really like the people I'm shopping for. I like my kids. Go figure, I do. I like my parents. I like to give gifts to people, but I want the gift to be the right gift, right? You want to match it up. I know my brother, so I generally get him food gift cards because, well, have you ever seen him eat? You would understand that it's a very good gift. My parents may be like your parents, and they are horrible at Christmas to buy for. They love everything. My parents have never gotten a gift they don't like, okay? I'm not saying their heart. I'm saying that everything they need or want, they just go get. It's like Christmas, and they go Christmas shopping and get what they need or want, right? It's like, I need a new whatever. All right, now I've got it in my mind. I know what I'm getting. Show up. Yeah, I just got me one of those. Awesome. I was going to get Mom and Dad, they're huge Ranger fans, and I was going to get them Ranger tickets for like a section of Ranger tickets for Christmas. And I was walking through the office, and Dad's in there telling Howard, "I'll never go back to another Ranger game. I can sit in my living room." I was like, well, so much for that. I won't be getting them the Rangers tickets. It's just one of those times that I think that the stress of the season and we want to get, first you got to get a gift that you think they will like, and then you want them to use the gift you get them, like, so you do that, and then you want to get them something that they don't already have, because like you give them something and they're like, "Oh, that's great, I need another 3 of these." Because everybody's nice when you give them a present, but they love me, and so when I give them something, they like anything we get them. It's just hard to do, but it makes I think Christmas a little stressful, and I think a lot of that goes into it. Another thing that makes Christmas stressful is, you guys have family Christmases? Man, I have to tell you, I'm the luckiest person on the planet, and I mean that because I really enjoy being with my family, and it's great. I look forward to it. Well, I don't get to see my family but on Christmas, and so I look forward to the family Christmas stuff. But here's the deal. We don't have the Christmas scenario that most of you guys have, where there's mom's family Christmas, stepmom's family Christmas, dad's, stepdad's, cousin-in-laws. I mean, where you have 3 or 4 divorces and blended mixed family and the whole 75 different Christmases, and if you miss one, it's bad, right? I mean, because you like them more than you like them, so you got this whole war going on. I don't have that, so I am so fortunate. I mean, I do enjoy. Now I like short Christmas parties. I'm like, get in, eat, get out. There is such a thing as spending too much time together. When people spend too much time together, bad things happen, And so Christmas parties should be short. You should get to the point, because who can get in a fight while you're eating, right? I mean, you got to get the food going. Tip number 1, get the food going early. Here's something. If you're in a drinking family, I would say don't start drinking early, though, because you're going to have a mess on your hand. It can get real ugly in those situations. So get the food going early, get the drinks going later, okay, if you're going to do that, because the celebration and festivities can go wrong in a hurry. But it's good to see people. It's good to be with friends. My question was always, when are you a grown-up? Anybody ever dealt with that? Like, you always go to the grandparents for Christmas, but when are you a grown-up? And when do your parents become the grandparents? You know what I'm saying? Has anybody had to deal with this situation? Like, it's awkward, so you have to find that whole time where we love going to Christmas, but when do we get to have ours? So I don't know. That's stressful too. I think all of these things are just the way that we are this time of year, and I think there's a lot of stress involved in does anybody have just all the money you need? I mean, just for Christmas? I mean, just, yep, yeah. Is that stressful too? I mean, because I'll be honest, man, I would love to buy every friend, every neighbor, everybody in my life, I'd love to buy them something, but I believe, and I want to tell you this, that you're not obligated, okay? Don't spend money you don't have, all right? Because that's stressful, but when the bills come, it's even more stressful, right? And a lot of times this time of year, we overspend and we overdo, and let me tell you a secret. If someone really cares about you and really loves you, then it is the thought that counts. It doesn't have to be much. It can be made. It can be, don't tell anybody else, but it can be regifted, When you get your third one, it's okay. One man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So it's okay. The thing is, no one I love has ever given me something I don't like. I was thinking about that this morning. My Ella's 6, and she makes me all kinds of things. And there's never been anything she's ever made me that I didn't like. So when we really care about each other, we're pretty easy to please. But what I think in life is that we have a lot of stress, and especially this time of year, there doesn't seem to be much peace, because I've got I hear all the time, I've got to do this, and it's like a mad panic. I've got to get Christmas shopping, and I've got to get this for this family, and I've got to do this for that, and I've got this. So our time gets short. Our relationships are stressed and strained. If you have family or relative relationships that are stressed and strained, and you know somebody's going to be at the Christmas party, it's a lot of pressure, right? And it creates an uncomfortable, uneasy, stressful time. I know I see it all the time in families. It happens in our family too, where two people in the family aren't getting along, and then they both show up, and then everybody's kind of like, I know that's only our family that happens, you know, but that adds to it, and all of a sudden, you know, between the money and the relationships and the time and the pressure of performing right and performing and buying the right gifts, what should be an extremely joyful time and peace and the most peaceful time of the year starts to be very intense. And I know that's why when you go Christmas shopping and the crowds get heavy, I understand that's why things are the way they are, you know. But today I want to talk to you about how to have personal peace, how to have peace with yourself and be able to enjoy this season. Is that okay? Because you can either get caught up in it, man, or you can sit back and this can be the greatest time of year. Sometimes, I want to ask this because I'm going to be honest with you today, unlike every other Sunday. This is going to be very truthful. I didn't want to come today. This is the last place on earth I wanted to be today, and it's hard. This has been a crappy year. Can I say that? It's just been horrible. And I'm thankful for life. I'm thankful for the things I do have, but man, I'm just ready for the end. The whole end of the world 2012 thing, that would have been nice. I know I know what's next for me, right? I know. So I'm good with catastrophe, end of the world stuff. I'm good with it. I need to tell you this though. I didn't want to be here today. I'm sappy, I guess. I don't like going to church without Celia. I don't like going anywhere without her, really. It just, I'm her better half, and but, and if you don't know, Celia's dad he had cancer, and he passed away Thursday, and the last week's been really just, it's bad. It's been bad, and you guys many of you guys have dealt with this stuff, and we're tired, and when you get tired, it adds to the, everything else that's going on. But I have to be honest with you. I'm glad I'm here. You guys lift me up. I mean that. I think we need each other. I think when things are as bad as they can be and you don't see that things can get any worse, I think this is the one group of people I want to be around. I need to be around. I think if you will allow yourself, I think it's like that, and it should be like that for every one of you. Even if you don't feel like doing anything or going anywhere or being around anybody, if you'll just put forth the effort, if you'll just make yourself do it, I found that it's better. This is the best place on earth to be today, right now. This is the best place on earth to be. And so I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that we get to experience this season together. And I think that the stress and the worry and the conflict or the unpeacefulness that's of this time right now, especially for our family, but for a lot of the world. You know, I mean, there's tragedy on TV. There's tragedy, you know, it's doom and gloom on you know, TV when you watch the news, and it's worse when you go Christmas shopping, and and you see so many bad sides of people, and I'm glad we're here, and I'm glad we can come in today and we can leave here thinking different. I'm glad we can leave here today with peace, with real peace, not make believe, not fake it peace, but real deal peace. And how do we do that? Well, I want to look at a couple of places, and I told the guys this morning that this is going to be kind of a sick Christmas message because, well, I don't know, just the way it rolls sometimes. Jesus said in Matthew 6:34, he said, "Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today." He's like, don't worry about if you had enough food or if you have enough clothes, or there's no need to worry about money and possessions and things like that. He says, don't worry about that stuff. That it'll all work out. It'll take care of itself. You know, he says something strange right before that. He says, "Your Father in heaven already knows all your needs, and he will give you all you need from day to day if you live for him and make the kingdom of God your primary concern." And if you'll seek first him and his kingdom, then everything's going to work itself out. Now, I'm not telling you everything's going to be peachy keen and everything's going to work out like you think it ought to. Well, that's just ignorant. Nobody really believes that. That's living in fantasy land, and last check, this isn't fantasy land. But the realities of life will work themselves out. Have you guys ever been through a really horrible situation that you knew was coming? You know, in February last year, and this is just how the year started out, we lost Chris, and it was instant. It just happened, and it was unreal while it was going on, and it was just too much. And it was tragic, and it was horrible. And then, but this to end the year with my father-in-law was slow and drug out and dreaded. And you know, we've known since Thanksgiving. Found out Thanksgiving, this is terminal. This is what's coming, and as it progressed, you know how it was going to be. And as you look at that, you think, I can't handle that. You know, and I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you knew something was coming, and you look at it and say, I don't think I can handle that. And as long as we're looking into the future, it always is. But have you ever noticed that as it happens, it just happens? I mean, you just kind of go with it, you know? It just kind of happens. And you can dread it all you want to. I remember when I was getting ready to go to boot camp, I was in the Marines, and I remember getting ready to go to boot camp, and these guys are great, and I think this is part of the mental torture, but they give you a video about boot camp before you go, which is, I don't know why you would do that to somebody, and you look at it and you say, there is no way. This is not humanly possible. You can't survive this. And which is great, knowing you're going. It makes the night before incredibly comfortable. But just as it happens, you get there, chaos starts, people start yelling, everybody's yelling, everybody's violent, everybody's in a hurry. And one day after another day after another day, and everything's happening to you, and it's happening so fast, and and before you know it, it's gone. and you've done it, and you lived, and you look back and you're like, that's impossible. But you've made it through. And I think one way that we start to find that peace is to stop dreading, worrying, stressing over what could or couldn't happen, and start dealing with life today. Now, as I was thinking through this, and I really spend a lot of my time just thinking. You know, everybody's like, Todd don't do anything. Well, I do. I think. That's what I do a lot. I think. And so as I'm thinking through this, I thought there was a guy that said, God said, I'll give you anything you want. And he said, I want wisdom. And so God granted him wisdom, and he was the wisest person that ever lived. And I thought, well, if there's anybody who knows about peace and knows how to have life, well, this guy ought to know, right? The wisest man that ever lived. So, and I thought, well, for Christmas, if you're going to do a Christmas message, where else would you go than Ecclesiastes? I mean, just so I was reading Ecclesiastes. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Ecclesiastes is like, it's just, everybody's like, God, it's brutal. It's brutally honest. It's awesome. And as you read it, well, here's why everybody moaned. If you don't know, if you've never read Ecclesiastes, this is the way it starts. Verse 2 of Ecclesiastes 1 says, everything is meaningless, utterly meaningless. You know, that's the theme. That's the theme of Ecclesiastes. I'm reading a book right now, and this is the second time I've read the book. And there's only a few books I read more than once. But this one is called Prayer and the Art of Volkswagen Maintenance. And it's a great book, man. It's a book by Donald Miller. And if you've ever read Blue Like Jazz or anything Donald Miller's wrote, he's really descriptive. And it's just awesome. But as he's going through this book, he's on the search for the meaning of life, for his purpose in life. And he talks about Ecclesiastes over and over and over. And here's what I got to when I started thinking about how to have peace is the wisest man in the world figured out something that most of us don't think is possible or real. And that is that everything is meaningless. And the problem with life is that we think everything is so meaningful. And that causes stress and worry and right? But if you get it, and you have to read further. I mean, you can't read the first line of a book and go, yeah, I know what that book's about, right? But as you read further, you start to see, man, this guy really understands how to have peace, how peace on earth works. And he writes things in it like this. So he goes into all these rants about wisdom, and after he finishes, he comes to the conclusion, well, the wise person and the foolish person both die. And at the end of their days, both will be forgotten. So he's like, what I asked for was wisdom, and that didn't really do it. Then he goes in and he talks about work, and he says, so I decided that there is nothing better than to enjoy food and drink and find satisfaction in work. And then I realized this pleasure is from the hand of God, for who can eat and enjoy anything apart from him? And so he goes in and he's like, there's nothing better than to just go through life, eating, drinking, living, experiencing everything, good and bad. He goes in, he talks about money and wealth, and he talks about busyness. One thing he says about money, those who love money will never have enough. How absurd to think that wealth brings true happiness. He talks about the future and trying to figure out things. He talks about being a king and having all these things. And as he goes through the whole thing, I love this part. What he comes to here is this, and it's this in chapter 3, verse, verse 11. It says, God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from the beginning to the end. So I conclude that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to enjoy themselves as long as they can. People should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. And I know that whatever God does is final. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose in this is that people should fear, and that word fear means respect or revere Him. Whatever exists today and whatever will exist in the future has already existed in the past, for God calls everything back in its own turn. And I was thinking about that, and I thought, how much of what we stress about, how much of what we worry about, how much of life is dictated by trying to get ahead, trying to achieve, trying to accomplish, trying to be something, trying to be somebody, going through all of these things, and I thought, Solomon might have just been on to it, because it doesn't matter how much money you'll make, because the measure of peace isn't in having. Actually, Solomon goes so far as to say what he's observed is that the people who have more money have more stress, more worry, and less peace. That's what he observed. But the people who live, like Jesus said, daily, and make the kingdom of heaven their primary concern daily, are people who live in peace. He realized that all of the things that we pursue in life really are meaningless. We like big houses, like we want our new house. I'm convinced that not everybody likes big houses. I would not want a big house. It's more stuff to keep clean, fix. Whatever. I'm not one of those who likes to fix things. But we like new houses. We like new cars, nice houses. But at some point, they always get old. What we build as monuments to us, time will completely destroy. I was driving down, I live out in the country, I was driving down Country Road, and I saw these houses, and I wondered, at what point do you move out of a house? Like I saw this abandoned house, and the roof was falling in, and I thought, at what point do you move out? Do you just decide that time has had its toll on this place? And you notice there's new houses, and there's houses that have been abandoned and that are just falling in, right? And what's the difference between the two? Time. Time comes and time goes. And inside those houses, there was parties and celebrations and probably births back then. There was probably kids born in there. Families lived there. There was love in that place. Someone built that with their hands. They drove the nails. They measured everything out. They cut every board, and it was a monument, and it was a work of art for them. But then they died years and years ago, and they're gone. And the labor of their life is now falling in, and instead of being a monument to something, it's something that somebody else is going to have to tear down and haul off. And it just passes, right? But at the time, everything's so important. I got a 15-year-old daughter, and at 15, do you remember how important everything was? I remember going through school, and every day was the end of the world. It was so important, and it was so right now. And we look at our kids, and we say, well, they'll grow up, and they'll see that life has a different scope. So when you get to be 40, things that used to be so important, like, remember boyfriends and girlfriends and first crushes and things that literally ripped your heart out, the extremes. And when you have a girl, I think being a guy, it wasn't as extreme, but with a girl, the bad days are the worst ever, Dad. And the good days are the best day ever. And it's just all the way up and all the way down. And at 40, you kind of start to, days just kind of run together and run off the calendar. And you're like, wow, now I'm 43. And then pretty soon you'll be 50. And then it just kind of, you know how it is. I mean, the thing is, we think at 40, you think, now I have scope. She's at 15. She don't have any scope. Everything's so now. But at 40, I have scope now. No, I still got parents. And does the job of a parent ever stop? No, because your kids never have the scope, right? It just don't happen. So life goes on, and we spread it all out. And at 60, you think you got the scope now, right? 65, you got the scope now. But what if we still don't? You know what I'm saying? Wherever you're at, you think that's it. But there's a different scope, and I think what causes this drive is what Solomon figured out, is that God has placed eternity in the human heart. Do you guys realize that we are born to exist forever? Forever. And that's why everything we create, when we build it, when we make it, when we buy it, when we want it, when we go through this, we have eternity into it. But then it disappoints us, doesn't it? Because we realize through time that people die, that houses rot, that kids grow up. I've been threatening Ella for 3 years that she is not going to grow up. We let that happen to her sister. But kids grow up. Life moves on. And everything, as time marches on, everything circles around. Celia's brother has a baby at the same time her dad dies. And it's a conflict. You want to rejoice here, and you're sad here. And so we see that life goes in this circle. And so I start to understand what Solomon's saying. So as I unpack what the world looks like and what life looks like, maybe we get too close. Maybe the reason we don't have joy unspeakable, the reason we don't have just where we sit back and watch everything and celebrate everything and take everything in, and why we have so much stress and strain, and why we have so much unrest, why we don't live in peace, is because we attach ourselves too much to what's temporary and forget about things that are not. The kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is not temporary. And when I attach myself to it, and the foreverness, is that a word? Foreverness of it, that can never disappoint. God can never disappoint. Now, I say that at the same time where I have a lot of questions for him. You do too. I understand that. He's a big boy. He can take it. He can take it. Just because you have questions don't change the relationship. I just have questions. But I understand that he cannot disappoint because he's a forever God. You realize that who you are is a forever you. And if you will connect with the forever you part, then you won't be disappointed. You struggle with health. You struggle with weight. You struggle with finances. You struggle with all these temporary things, when we can find peace with who we really are in the part that understands that everything is just temporary, that everything that's seen and touched and sought after is temporary, that it's going to come around in its time. And when we start to look at things, do you realize, and I hope you do, I hope you can, but that you and me and our relationships, those are forever things. Those are the important things. The gifts we get each other are part of those relationships, okay? But it's not the primary part, because I guarantee you 12 months from today, those things will be old, broken, worn out, or need maintenance. And we'll be at the store doing it all again, right? But what's real and what's forever is me and you. Who we are. Do you realize that someday I'll shed my body and someday you'll shed yours? But that doesn't end us. We will transition out of this suit, out of this realm, out of the things that are here today and gone tomorrow. We're transitioning. But you and I, who we are, we're forever. And that's why when we pour ourselves into each other and into relationships, those things don't disappoint. Now, what we do to each other in this world, those things are disappointing in the now kind of thing. But if we will decide in our hearts that to truly love each other and to have a care for one another and to love God and love each other, then we can start to understand what life really is and the scope of life. And if you want peace, that's the only way you're going to have it. You're going to have to get a different view. You're going to have to get a scope about life that says, I am eternal, I am a forever being, and the only things that will ever satisfy, the only things that won't hurt or destroy or disappoint are eternal things. Jesus said, these are the greatest commandments. Love God, He's eternal, and love each other, we're eternal. And if we get that, we start to have a different view of the season. Because even when somebody yells and cusses at you, you're like, one day you're not going to have a body, and I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to tell stories about you. Because we're so wrapped up in now. If we get an eternal scope, this was my question always. Is God really patient, or is He just forever? I mean, like, if you've got forever, there's really no need to get in a hurry, right? Impatience comes from having a finite amount of time, right? So if I'm impatient, that means I have the wrong scope. That means I've set myself into time and I can't have peace in that. When I start to look at things that are forever, I start to understand, like Solomon, man, everything is meaningless. And I don't think Solomon was like, everything's meaningless. I think he was like, guys, everything's meaningless. It doesn't matter. There are things that don't matter. You know what? Enjoy life. Enjoy life. It's okay. I give you permission. If you've had a year like I've had, I'm sorry. I really am. But we don't have to dwell on it. That was yesterday. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I can enjoy today. We can live. You may have had conflict with people in your life, with relatives in your life. You know what? So what? So what? That's why forgiveness is a better way to live. Because I don't have to worry about what you did to me yesterday. I'm just going to keep on keeping on. I'm going to keep on living. I'm going to keep on loving. I'm going to keep on being. I'm going to have peace. I choose peace in my life. Jesus said, don't worry, which insinuates that we have a choice. That we can either stress, worry, be rushed, impatient, all the things that go with peace, with not having peace, or we can just choose to live in peace. I can choose to be in conflict with people, and when I go to Walmart, I can dread. I'm going to run into, I can see their car in the parking lot, know that I'm going to run into them when I get in there. Right? You know what I'm talking about. Now, if any of you guys are honest, and I know some of you are, you've gone to Walmart, seen a car in the parking lot, and left. To that I say, you don't have peace. Right? You don't have peace. I have been cussed and threatened by people who have left this church. Now, if you're going to leave the church, that's fine, but don't cuss and threaten me. That's not good. It's okay if you don't like it. It's okay to go. I don't want you to go. I care that you're here. But I see people in Walmart. Here's the thing. If you cuss me and threaten me, I guarantee you next time you go to Walmart, I'll be there. It's inevitable. It happens. But if we live with conflict, if we're not eternal, if we're not forgiving, if we're not loving, then we're going to be very uncomfortable in that situation. Sylvia's like, I don't know how you do this. You act like nothing's wrong. Well, I was like, well, there's nothing wrong. She said, but they said this, they did that. They threatened you. Like, well, they're not going to beat me up at Walmart. Besides, I'm too old to fight. I'm just, do whatever. I'm not going to fight back. I'm just too old. I don't like hitting. I don't like being hit. I'm not going to fight. The thing is, when you get a different scope, it's easy. It becomes easy to live in joy and peace and goodness and all the things in life. Don't you want that? And so when you start to feel stress and worry, where am I going to get the money? Where are the bills? I'm out of work. Where am I ever going to find a job? I don't know. I don't know. If you can't pay your bills, I'm sorry. Nobody's going to kill you. They're not going to kill you. You have to figure out something else to do. Solomon, man, he says that work is good for us because God, it's a gift of God to the feeling we get for working hard. It's good. That's why entitlements will never work. They don't work because that's a gift from God. So we work. Well, what if I can't find a job? Well, that don't mean you stop working. You work. Because it changes your scope. It's part of who you are. It's part of creation. It's part of God. And it's going to make things work out for you. The kingdom of God is going to work out for you. In a week? I don't know. In a month? I don't know. I don't know. But everything comes around in its own time. I've been on top of the world, literally on top of the world. I mean, I've had everything materially I could ever want. And I've lost everything materially in my life. Houses, cars, everything. And I've gotten everything back again. And I've lost everything again. Now, I've only done that like twice. But Howard, that dude has a roller coaster of a life. I mean, you ought to get him to sit down and tell you his story. But if you talk to him, he'll tell you, man, it don't matter. Things come, things go. Stuff comes, stuff goes. Things happen. Life happens. You know what? You'll come into a relationship with people, and they'll be real close, and then things will happen. And they don't have to part bad, but or just time, space, job changes, moves, whatever. Friends you had then you don't have now. Things change. You have a lot of friends, you have no friends, you have a lot of friends, you have no friends, you have a lot of family, you have no family, you have a lot, it just is life. And when we ride that roller coaster, it's so stressful and there's conflict in it all the time. But if we sit back and go, well, I lost that one, but I look around and here all you guys are. This whole church was a whole different group of people before. They're somewhere else. Does that make you love them any less? No, they're just somewhere else. Life has taken us different paths. It's okay. Now you're here. We're here. It's good, right? And then someday our paths may not be together. What you got to start to see is I can have life, and a good life, no matter what it is. No matter what I'm going through, no matter where it's at, no matter if I'm in the middle of a funeral service where we've lost someone, because at the same time, you're in a hospital waiting room for a baby being born. Someone leaves, someone else comes. Even Steven, man. Y'all guys ever see that Seinfeld? I'm even Steven. Oh, yeah, that's just the way it is. Life, it works that way. I don't know why. But I'm convinced for those that love God and are committed to His kingdom, and we get the scope that we're forever people, that we can live different. And it's good. It's good to live different. You can leave here today knowing that you may have messed up the whole first part of your life or the whole time up till today. You know what? Leave here and go do something different. Well, I can't change jobs. Why not? Well, the economy's terrible. So, start over. I love God's workings in our natural realm. I once was dead, now I'm a new creation. Hey, I got an idea. Start over. If you don't like where your life's at right now, here's my advice for you. Do something different. Do something different. You don't like where your marriage is? You don't like where your marriage is today. If you're sitting here today and you are disappointed and frustrated with where your marriage is, you change. You can change. You change and it'll change the dynamics of your marriage, right? Do something different. It's not hard. It's not complicated. This isn't rocket science. I didn't go through the Greek and Hebrew of the Bible. I just think that if you don't like the way things are going, do something different. If you are stressed today, and if life is chaos for you today, change. That's so deep, man. It's just, if you don't like being on drugs and addicted, then stop. Well, I can't. Why not? Well, my lifestyle, where I live, my friends. Move. Change your friends. Change your job. Change. Do something different. See, we can leave here today with a total different outlook. And a lot of you guys are sitting there going, it's fantasy. People just can't change in real life. You can't just go change jobs, sell your house, and move. You can't. All right, don't. We'll be here next year. We'll be here next year, and we'll talk about the same thing. Because really, when it comes down to it, God loves us so much that He wanted to give us life. So when we're miserable, He says, well, do something different. You don't have to be miserable, guys. No matter what your circumstance, you don't have to be miserable. Change your view, change your perspective, change your location, change your friends, Change your wife. No, don't do that. Because if you don't change, your next one's going to be the same anyway. It's going to be the same. So what I'm telling you is that God loves you and has empowered you to change your life. Okay? And I'm not going to change your life for you. I'm not going to give you peace. I'm not going to give you peace on earth. I'm not the Prince of Peace. I'm not the man of peace. I'm not Prince. Thank God. God loves you, so He has empowered you. He's not going to change you. I had a girl that was a cocaine addict come to me and tell me she's a cocaine addict, and that when God wanted her off of cocaine, He would get her off. Okay? Here's some insight. It don't work that way. It's not going to work that way. Paul, he goes into this thing and he says, if you're a thief, then start doing something else with your hands. Like, take what you're doing with your hands and do something different than stealing. He says, change. You've been empowered by God through His power, His grace, to change your life. But God is not a genie in a bottle, okay? He's not going to just change you. Right? We have to change. And here's what I want for you today. Okay, I'm going to let you go home, eat cookies and candy and all that stuff. Hey, if you're diabetic, this is something else about living. This is Christmas. You eat what you want to eat. And you enjoy it. Because tomorrow, we'll deal with it tomorrow. It's not going to kill you in one day. And if it does, so what? Die happy, right? Now all the wives are like, you're not doing that. You're getting elbows, I'm seeing all kinds of things flying. Just enjoy life. Man, if a piece of cheesecake does it for you, have a piece of cheesecake every once in a while. Look, don't eat it every meal. I want you guys to want a different life. Don't be satisfied with worry and stress and conflict and misery and impatience. Life's too short for that stuff, man. It's too short. You know what? If you're unemployed right now, it's the hardest thing in the world, especially for a man. I don't know, I've never been a woman and unemployed. It's hard when you have responsibilities and you have family and you have things. But listen, it's not the end of the world. It is not the end of the world. You'll be okay. You don't have to let it define you. You don't have to let it dictate your happiness, your joy in life. It doesn't have to dictate it. It may change the way you live. Well, that may be a good thing. It may be the thing you need. It may be the exact thing that will save the rest of your life. You may see things differently and clearly. You may put more value on things that are really important. It may be just the thing. Maybe you're just looking at it wrong. The thing is, guys, if you want a different life, and I pray today that you do, then it really is up to you to just change it. You want peace on earth? Then have it. Get you some. Okay? I don't know if you'll have peace tomorrow, but you can make that decision tomorrow. You can today, though, right? Tomorrow, I'll choose to have peace again. Next day after that, I can choose whatever I want every day, right? I can start taking steps and making changes in my life. You can too. So this is going to be a better way to live. Go ahead and stand up with me. I want to pray for you. I want to release you to go from here today, empowered by God to live a different, a peaceful, a blessed life, okay? God, I come to you right now.